So today we're looking at my top 3 quotes from a 2015 short story I did from a writing stream. It was called Two Kings, and it was actually from my debate format that I came up with the idea for it. Because I always used to use this analogy, like imagine two hypothetical countries or kingdoms, and it's a good way to frame like a thought experiment. Like, okay, one king is capitalist and one king is socialist, and so we can show all the examples in society without getting bogged down by a real world specific. You can just pose it and see what the pros and cons of each idea is, whatever it might be. So in the context of the story, one is a pragmatist and one is an absolutist, and neither are framed as like good or bad. It's not like a clear duality. They both have flaws, but the pragmatist tries to make everything look better on the surface. The absolutist accepts Darwinism and the strong will prey on the weak, etc., and they sort of embrace it and encourage it. So the first quote comes from the absolutist, where he says, "History is written in blood, and morality is merely the plaything of conquerors, for their children to quibble over, in cities built on the backs of slaves, upon the ground soaked by the blood of innocents." The similar rhetoric has been used in real world analogies, but the core underlying meaning is just that it's easy to moralize once you've already benefited from hundreds of years of atrocity, which applies pretty much to every region of the world. So without getting too specific, it's just that's how history was carved. There were plenty of atrocities. Everybody was doing it. Nobody was just holding hands and getting together, or at least within his perspective. The other one kind of goes along with that. It is talking about other rulers at the time, assuming these two are the predominant ones. We were all playing by the same rules for the same prize, and those were none and everything. Don't blame me just because I was simply ahead of the curve. Don't mistake inability for greater morality. In other words, like, look at Genghis Khan, right? It's not like everybody was peaceful and singing and dancing at that time, and all of a sudden the big bad Genghis Khan comes along and kills literally millions of people. It's that the other kings at the time and leaders and rulers would have gladly done what he did too, right? They were all fighting and having their own little lesser conflicts, but his was just so much more effective. He was just so much better at doing what they were trying to do that he gets a bad rap. It was the same process, he was just far better at it. So you get remembered, everyone else gets forgotten about. Oh, did you hear about this lesser king who killed 1,000 people? Well, nobody cares about him. Well, we care about Genghis who killed 1,000,000, right? They're doing it the same way. Everybody's trying to subjugate. Might is right. That's the whole historical basis. And the last one is from the pragmatist king who, at one point, this is his backstory, that he was at one point performing as a jester on the street for tips. And so one of the royal advisors at the time happens to come upon him and asks him, "Why are you subjecting yourself to this public humiliation?" And he responds, "So you can look back and see that's how a king is made." And that's the irony. Once he becomes a king, then he's very concerned about appearances, even at the expense of reality. And here's just a bonus, number 4. It's sort of a logical razor that I would use a lot in my debate format, going back to that, the inspiration for the story. But it does make an appearance in the story. So it's along the same mindset of name any evil person from history and don't specify the conflict. Don't give any man a monopoly over sin. They merely show what we're all capable of if given the opportunity. Sort of implying that giving any one person so much power is the problem in the first place. It doesn't matter. Some might be slightly better, some might be slightly worse. They all share the same innate nature and tendency that needs to be held in check.